Hello, everybody. Caroline here. Got my Speak Up mug that a good friend got me, and there's nothing in particularly I want to share, but there's a couple things that have come to the top of my mind. I've been off of social for a little bit, enjoying my life, right? I have chickens. The next thing I'm going to do is get like my little baby chicks out here and let them feast in that grass and have some sunlight. One flopped over my leg yesterday. It was hilarious. But if you don't know me, I was a doctor of chiropractic for 13 years. I'm still licensed. And I created the Soulful Way because I kept falling into the category of I want freedom, but I'm tied to this brick and mortar or this job or this whatever I created. And interestingly, my dad asked me a question yesterday. He was like, hey, baby, do you ever want to go back to what you did before? And I don't know how Facebook's going to feel about this, but without missing a beat, I said, fuck no. And then I was like, sorry. I was dropping a lot of F words, y'all. I was prepping taxes, but he was like, really? Why? I figured you'd really miss it. And he said this because he saw me as a high school kid in FFA, and I was all in, and I was into speaking. I was into leadership. I was a chapter president. I was a state officer. I wanted to go nationals, but I didn't make it. So very involved, right? And he was like, well, I just really thought that you would, I thought you might miss it. And I was like, I really liked helping people, but let me tell you what I don't miss. And interestingly, I talked to my stepmom, and she had just stopped working, and she's like, I don't miss being tired. I don't miss going into work. I do miss the paychecks. And that's usually the one thing people do miss when they live how they want is the pay they were getting. But there's a way around that. I'm going to talk to you about that. You can replace it. So anyway, I was like, no, here's what I experienced. First of all, I did so many, I did so much and learned so much so fast and applied it so quickly that I pretty much topped out of what I was able to do under a license and under the contracting with insurance companies and under the scope of chiropractic care in about 3 to 5 years. And I should have quit 10 years ago. And he was shocked. And I was like, what I was doing, my doggies are over there. I was like, what I was doing is going into a brick and mortar, and people would come to me with everything they never fixed for themselves and expected me to fix it. That was my job, to address it physically. And then when I would bring mental and emotional things into it, nobody wanted to hear that. So I would hear everyone's complaints, address their physical stuff, but then most people would not make the changes outside of the office. And that wasn't everyone, but that was a large majority. And then it didn't matter how hard I worked, because I love getting results. I'm a researcher by heart, and I'm results driven. I did not get compensated for the results that I got. It didn't matter if I did a crappy A, quick snap, crackle, pop, didn't even get the job done, or spent an hour and a half with someone doing progressive muscle work, emotional depth work, looking at their nutrition, interpreting their genetics test. It didn't matter what I did. It didn't matter if I addressed something they'd been dealing with for decades. I got paid the same amount. And it was about, I topped out at $75 for a session, unless we did little add-ons, right? But with insurance companies, the contracts got lower and lower and lower. And insurance is high, right? The premiums are high enough. So of course patients didn't want to split the difference. So I had to make the decision to just stop, because I was bleeding for the system, and I was doing a damn good job, and my patients were amazing, but I didn't want them to be reliant on me forever. I didn't want them to be dependent, but that's not how the system is set up. So anyway, I created my own system based on all the skills I've ever acquired. It's called the Soulful Way. I noticed what after 20,000 hours in front of human bodies, clinical research, creating my own clinical research, presenting it, I noticed who got better and who didn't. And so I tracked that. And it is called the Soulful System. Now, the amygdala system is embedded in it, but the bigger problem for me was letting go of the identity of what I did for people. And so I created a system for practitioners, coaches, consultants, and mentors who have massive skill sets but have been defined by a skill set and just want to be themselves, have their own freedom, and get paid handsomely for it. And there's a couple pieces to it, and I'm going to go ahead and tell you the couple pieces. Y'all, I didn't know how to make an offer. I knew what a service was, and I knew what a product was, but I didn't know how to combine them, and I didn't know how to package them, and it just seemed complicated. And it can until it's broken down and made very simple. I took 2 years to learn what this was. I paid $15,000 to think different. In a container, because when you're in the right room, right, everything changes. That's neuroplasticity, that's mirror neuroning, that's the strongest person's vibes in the room changing everyone else's, and that's beneficial. That's why we do coaching and mentorship. And so I learned how to make an offer. I learned the components of an offer, and that's what I'm teaching those in the Soulful Circle right now, and they are making gangbusters and headway. It's amazing. And one of them, and I knew, hey, Melissa, thank you. I'm so glad you're here. I was about to talk about I've got a client right now who her body is unraveling years and years and years of stored up trauma, just implementing my one move system aside the soulful system. So here's the thing that most practitioners, coaches, and mentors have a problem with. Most of them have a very specific expertise, whether it be nutrition, health, biology, therapy, something, right? And they see a better way. And the interesting thing about where those systems came from and what they're embedded in is you can't set a goal as another person. For another person as a therapist or a chiropractor or a medical doctor. They are in charge of their own goals. The thing about people, and we're designed this way, we can't see past what we're living. So you have to hallucinate for them and attach what you can already do as a safeguard to where they're going. But painting the vision of where they're going usually incites fear in anyone who has a level of expertise, because that is like no-go, bad. You can't claim people can get anywhere. And I have all sorts of opinions, but that's there's all sorts of facts behind this too. But the system that helps the people the most is the one system that's gagged from doing this. So I love teaching women with specialties, especially in the body, how to couple what they're amazing at with how to make the money. And that's the skill that most of them didn't learn because, well, it was like that by design. So I've got a client who is unraveling years of trauma just applying it used to be called the amygdala system, my one move method aside the soulful system. That's it. It's very simple steps, but her body cannot see past the simple step. So what I spent 20,000 hours learning in front of human bodies is the fail-safe or the safety net for the mechanism that is nothing new under the sun. And the mechanism is one offer that you can validate with 3 sales, one workshop where you can sell 1 to many, make 3 sales, and then a rhythm that you can repeat until you hit 25K a month in 14 hours a week or less with no team. Doing what you love. That is the soulful way. And it couples the step-by-step strategy with the one move based in neurology and everything I ever saw. But unless it's coupled with a goal that appeals to someone, the whole system is pointless. So if you've ever wondered, why do I keep going to therapy and I just keep talking in circles and getting nowhere? And I feel better because I connected with another human, but I've not gotten anywhere. Well, the system is rigged. The system is rigged to keep you there. I love therapy. It has its place. There's all sorts of different kinds of therapy. There's EMDR, there's talk therapy, there's PMLD. They're all fantastic. And most of them are based on creating a safe relationship with other humans, which will bleed over into money later. But what they won't do, typically, unless the therapist steps out of the system and then they got to deal with their own thing, is set a goal for you and put you on the trajectory, unless you name that yourself. So that's why I left the system. And that's why I've seen a lot of other therapists, coaches, mentors leave the system. And once you leave the system, you have to create your own system, which is hard, y'all. It's not hard. It's simple and requires repetition, and it requires you to ruthlessly remove what you don't want to do forever. Because when you're already doing what you love, it's just another rep that doesn't feel like death. If you're doing something that you don't love and you hate to try to get to something you love, well, that's just a means to an end that'll never end. That's what I was doing, reporting to 4 walls daily, waiting on people to help them feel better, to wonder when I could, like, do something different. I had to just do something different. And another bit that I'm a little wound up about, manifestation is real. It's happening all the time, and there's no special way to do it. The biggest bit of manifestation is action. Now, yeah, sometimes the stinking thinking or your amygdala will stop action, but the mindset's usually never the problem. It's what the mindset stops. And so the action is where it's at. And that is all the basis of my one move. I'll go ahead and tell you my one move, because if you at least know the information, you'll see it. There's one domino that will knock all the dominoes over. And sometimes we can't see it. And sometimes it's like that by design, because the amygdala will be like, don't let the person see it. And if you're like, what the hell's the amygdala? That is, you have 2 of them, one in each hemisphere of your brain. And they are in charge of filtering out what is normal and what is not normal in your world that was locked in by 7, mostly in utero by age 2. So the amygdala is a powerful little organ that will skew reality. So if you've ever seen someone react not the same as everyone else in the room to a thing, some people call that trauma, some people call it triggers. That's the amygdala being like, danger, where nobody else saw danger, because something different was about to unfold in their life that changed who they were. And your body, we were designed to have everything we needed to thrive by 7 years old. That's not the case here in the West. So the one move is, there's one move that will knock all the dominoes out, instead of doing all the other dominoes to get to the big domino. Before you get to that one move, you will hit amygdala hijack. And if you don't know what that is, I have a lot of videos on that. I used to solve only amygdala hijack, but interestingly, unless it was coupled with a bigger goal set by me, people didn't want to do that, because it threatened the idea of who they were, what they already had. And interestingly, humans are programmed to be more fearful of loss than gain. You will respond 100 times more intensely to the idea of loss than gain, which is why a system is required, and a hallucinated outcome is also required to take the eye off of the thing that they might lose. Of course, I got a call in the middle of this. So first you're going to get hijacked. That's when you do the one move. Then you're going to have 3 tests. You're not always going to get hijacked. It might feel like it, it might not. But within the system, it always happens in the body. It just might look different. So there'll be the one move. You will have 3 tests. I'm not even going to tell you what they are, because most people start looking for them. And just know, once you make the one move, how do I turn on reactions? I don't know how to do that. Once you make the one move, there will be 3 tests coming at you. And they're the ones that make you think, oh my gosh, this was not the right decision, was it? I knew it. That's a test. You're going to have at least 3 for every decision you make. And depending on how long you've let life take you for a ride versus creating your own, in whatever way, shape, or form, whether that's food, people, relationships, choosing you, you're going to have them. After the 3 tests, assuming you pass them, you got a new identity, and now you have a new baseline. And guess what? There's going to be another thing where there's another domino to be knocked down, because a growth-oriented person will have to keep growing. A non-growth-oriented person won't, but what will happen is the resentment will build up in their body, and their body will start degrading from the inside out, because we are wired for growth, but we just don't know how to do it here. So I've systematized it because I lived it. And with all the education I got, I was like, why is nobody teaching this? So I am. And it's inside the Soulful Circle. And I will have a video coming out soon. I will have spots opening up again. But amazing things are happening with our founding members. Again, one is just, her body is, her entire right side, she said, down to the fascia. And this is another reason I left chiropractic. I knew that doing these things would do the deep work that I couldn't do from the outside in. she has released, she said, probably decades of tension, and her right side would lock down, and you could even see it when she talked, like her head, her whole side would kind of crunch in on itself. It's totally open now. She's like, I'm so different. I've got a client with like 7 offers out right now, prepping people to go overseas, and she has this massive skill set, but thought she had to pick one thing. I've got another client implementing systems so she can keep the freedom instead of choosing between freedom and making her business run. And I've got another client who is like got the best relationships and already know, like, connected with themselves and knows exactly what they're going to do, which is amazing. I had different opinions about what they should do, and they were like, I said, hey, look, I don't want to interfere. I think you might have really good reasons for when you were putting this workshop, because it was like 3 weeks early. And they were very connected to the Ides of March. I'm like, look, you're very connected to this. Don't let me get in the way. But most programs and most coaching and most mentorship that I've been in, minus 2, have tried to tell me what to do above and beyond what I knew was right for me. So at the deepest level, you know exactly what's right for you. And that is the soulful way. And when you know what's right for you, but your body is confusing you about what's right for you because it's looking for safety over thriving, that's what my one move system is for. And then when you're looking for, what do I do next to get to my goal? That's the soulful system. So I've got it both mapped out for you. I'll have a video up next. I'll have some openings for the circle coming up. I don't open many often because I'm more concerned with quality of people in there. There is a hell of a culture in there. I mean, everyone is growing by leaps and bounds. After the last call on Tuesday in our WhatsApp group, one of the clients was like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for the call. This was freaking phenomenal. I may make a master class out of parts of the Q&A section of our last call. It was phenomenal. Mind-blowing for everyone. But it was just, it's an amazing group of people, and I'm curating the circle pretty hard because there's an amazing culture. And if you're not curating your own culture, do that. Be very choosy about who comes in your circle, because everyone's energy matters. And that's also based in neurology from me. I know exactly what kind of experience I want my clients to get. And there's a few things I prioritize. One is speed over perfection. There was one day I had a client who was like, I've got to make another offer to she was making her bridge offer to my client. Can you take a look at this real quick? So I did a quick 5 minutes once over, sent her another draft, and she sent it over. Interestingly, the client responded but didn't answer, are you in or out? And my client thought it was about price. Guess what? It wasn't. She was about to cut her prices in half just to work with the girl. And I was like, no, you have a real conversation. And if it is, you can make that decision. It wasn't about price. It was about how many weeks between each call. So y'all, there's a lot of misconceptions that will drive decisions in the wrong direction. And yeah, so love you all. Thanks for being here, Melissa. And yeah, say hi to Asher. Hey, buddy.